A very long time ago, there was an English king named Harold. Not long after he became king, a big Norman duke with an army came over the water to attack Britain. He defeated Harold at the Battle of Hastings. English people will never forget that war. After that, Duke William became king, but many English people hated and feared him. In those days, the fens were a lonely place far from London. The ground was so flat that when it rained, big sheets of water spread out on it instead of running to the sea. The ground was so flat that the water in the river didn't move quickly. Instead, it loitered. When it rained and flooded the land, the rivers rose above their banks. The ground was soft and wet. Only grass and weeds could grow there. Rivers were full of fish, and wild ducks and other water birds flew over the land in huge groups. There were times when a rise in the ground looked like an island. The men lived on these islands, where the ground was dry enough to grow corn and other crops. They connected islands with wooden causeways and dug deep ditches to drain water. Over the soft, wet ground, they walked on stilts, which are long pieces of wood. When there were floods, the water often ruined the crops. Similarly, high waves would wash away the cattle and houses near the coast. The residents of these fences battled against the water throughout their lives. They were brave and patient. Only people from that country knew how to cross the fence. They knew that the swampy ground was firm enough for stilts to rest. They knew how to cross the causeways from one island to the next. However, good monks came and built a monastery on one island that was larger than the others. They cared for the poor and educated the children. And in each monastery, they built a church to honor God. Around the abbey, the fen men constructed a small town of wooden homes.
In that area, a legendary fighter, known as Hereward the Wake, lived. People named him Hereward the Wake due to his constant alertness and quickness, ensuring no one ever caught him napping. Hereward was tall and robust, and his yellow hair flowed over his shoulders. He rode a beautiful mare named Swallow because she moved like a bird.
The men finally learned that Duke William had killed King Harold at Senlac. The news spread slowly. They eventually discovered that King William had assumed the throne at Westminster. When this ward heard what King William had done, he thought, "We in the country will never give in." As a result, he was surrounded by a group of men who were just as brave and patient as he was. They waited to show King William how they felt about the Normans. Around that time, there was an extensive abbey in Peterborough. The English abbot passed away in November 1069. King William heard this and said, "I will have a Norman run that house." So, the following Easter, he sent Abbot Turold with armed men to keep him safe. Turold was more of a fighter than a monk, but when Hereward heard that Turold was coming, he and his men sailed up the wide, slow river to Peterborough town. They then sent a messenger to the abbey to say, "My lord Hereward wants you holy men to join him in fighting the foreigners, and he will get rid of this new Norman abbot." but the shy monks said no.
Then Hereward's men threw firebrands at the town's wooden homes.
They broke into the monastery's large church and stole its gold and silver dishes, beautiful vestments, and golden pastoral staff. When Abbot Turald got there, the stone minister was the only thing standing in the burned-out ruins of the town and the abbey. Abbot Turald found only one sick brother waiting to greet him. "I will fight those fen men until they know I am king." Upon hearing this, King William said, "However, Hereward and his men guided them to the Isle of Ely. The island was the largest in the country and featured a large church. The island slowly rose from the surrounding swamp. The island featured deep dikes on 3 sides and a narrow causeway across one of the dikes on the 4th side, allowing only a few men to cross simultaneously. On the island, maize was the main crop. People could hunt waterfowl and wild birds for food, as well as fish in the dikes. Hereward's men lived in the abbey and ate with the monks. They watched William to see what he would do. Finally, word got out that William had marched from London to Cambridge, about 15 miles away, to set up camp.
It was important for Hereward to know how many Normans there were, and if they had many weapons, so he could fight them better.
So, one night, he left Ely alone and dressed in costume to see the Norman camp. He tied up the mare, Swallow, so that no one could see her.
She stayed still until he came back. He then crept up on the Norman tents in the dark until he could see the troops sitting around their campfire and hear everything they had to say. When dawn started to break, he jumped on Mare Swallow's back and yelled, "Awake! Awake!" into the darkness. As he raced back to Ely, he did this a 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th time. One time, he saw William and heard him talk about how to fight the fen men.
Soon, the Normans tried to take the town, but they failed. They tried over and over, but it never worked. Finally, they built a tower on one of the wooden causeways leading to the island and put an older woman inside, who they said was a witch. When the English approached the tower, they believed the witch's magic would cause them to lose control.
This made them believe that the English could not stop the Normans from crossing the bridge. They crossed, hoping the English would come out to meet them, but they still needed to do so. The Normans kept moving forward, confused, when they were almost on the island. Smoke and crackling flames emerged from the reed beds beneath the bridge. The English sneaked through the swamp and lit the reeds on fire. The Normans tried to run back quickly, and they stomped on each other, cursed, and fought. The smoke rose, choked them, and blinded them. The flames crackled and burned, causing the tower, witches, and fighting men to all fall into the burning reed beds. But on the island of Ely, there was betrayal.
The monks didn't want to keep fighting, so they sent a secret message to the Normans to let them know they were giving up. This ward and his men soon learned what the monks had done, and they were furious.
They got in their boats and sailed to sea and down the river. Their brave fight for English freedom was worth nothing because they had been misled.
At this point, the English had given all of England to the Normans. This was due to the need for a suitable English prince to take the throne.
They remembered their grandfather's stories about Canute the Dane and Edmund Ironside. They knew that Canute the Dane had made the land peaceful after Edmund Ironside died, and no English prince was fit to rule. They knew William Norman would do the same. People claim that Hereward and King William eventually became friends, and that Hereward was given land in central England. But we don't know for sure what happened to him after that. King William likely knew that making an enemy your friend was the best way to get rid of him, and Hereward understood that a strong man who would maintain order and uphold morality would lead England.
Don't forget to like and done in the comment.